Hey everyone, it is John C. Morley here, Sir Entrepreneur. It is great to be with you guys again tonight. In case you are wondering, basically, what we're doing. Well, every single night, if you are new, then you probably don't know, but every single night we have another subtopic based on the master topic of the week. So the master topic of the week, we'll get to that in just a second. So welcome. There's lots of great information to help you become a better version of yourself and help others become better versions of themselves. You notice I have a hat on me tonight. Believe and achieve. Before you can achieve anything, you have to first believe it. So you can also go to Believe, BelievMeAchieve.com. Really great place to go to get great information, free, and help you become a better version of yourself. If you are returning back to my channel, it's great to have you here, friends, colleagues, associates. It is so wonderful to have you and your support. And I'm hoping that many of the new people that are just checking us out for the first time will become loyal, just like you guys have been for a very long time. And so what is that topic, John, that we're talking about? Well, that's a great question. And that is watch what you say. We're on the series of episode 3. Now, if you remember yesterday, I talked about my friends who played the little telephone game of three-way calling. But when else should you watch what you say? I think another real important time that you have to watch what you say is when you're in front of a brand new group and they are not, let's say, tarnished or exposed to who you are. So your image to them is really important, because if you do something wrong or you say something wrong, well, it's kind of like you blew it. And so if you blow it, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. You really don't. Don't get a second chance. Thus, what you need to be cognizant of is that you will, I repeat, you will understand that if you watch what you say later will be a lot easier. What do I mean by that? All right. When I was in, let's say I was in high school, I had some friends, same friends, and this one friend always seemed to want to open his mouth, always wanted to brag. And, didn't say much about it, but he always would brag about things. And then when the time came that it was supposed to be what he said, he would always make an excuse like, so gee, well, what happened with that? Just in conversation, like, oh, yeah, it's going to be another day. It's back ordered, or it's this, or it's that. And so it's like he kept telling more, I'm going to call them lies because the first thing didn't happen. Now, maybe whatever he was asking for, he really didn't get the permission to do it, or he didn't get the money for it, or whatever it was. He was slipping at the mouth because he was trying to impress people for who he really was. Interesting, right? Think about that for a second. Just think about that for a second. I want you to think about that for a minute. Think about what that really means. And I think the biggest thing you have to understand is that when you watch what you say, what you're really doing is making sure that you're saying things that are truthful and on par. Sometimes people just run the mouth and they don't realize that their mouth's going before their brain had just say, oh, shoot, wait, that wasn't supposed to be like that, or no, that's not really true. And it can be very harmless. However, you get pegged as being, quote unquote, a liar. I want to tell about a story. It's actually from John the Science Guy. For any of you guys that want to watch it, you can go to it was Envision Networking, ENVISION Networking, and then look for Science Fridays with John, How to Network. There was an experiment that I did. And I took a piece of paper. And then I took some grape juice and I made some concoction. I won't tell you what that is right now. And then I wrote something on the paper. But nobody could read it. And I said, you always want to tell the truth. Because sooner or later, you're going to go to a party. And Mr. or Mrs. Grape Juice, they're going to show up with all these people that have a high level of respect for you. Open their mouths and expose you for the true liar that you are. And what I did is I used the grape juice and I revealed the message. You should always tell the truth or you'll be exposed. And so the reason I say Mr. and Mrs. Grape Juice, because that was a connection to the experiment. I was basically making invisible ink and then showing how with the indicator we could actually make it reappear. I think a lot of times people do things, but they don't realize the consequences just because. And that just because is they don't believe it's possible, or just because they don't think that that could happen. Now, I'm not trying to scare you, but what I am trying to tell you is that tell the truth. And if something happens and somebody says to you, well, gee, you said this. You're right. I did say this. I was wrong. I thought it was this. That's perfectly fine. It's just that if you now try to go on and say, well, that's what I said. And yeah, well, and if you try to like change the story around, well, that's going to make you look like a jerk. I mean, really, it's going to make you look like a jerk. And so this comes into play with that big ego we've talked about before, right? The ego is something that always has to be right. Even though you're wrong, one of the hardest things for humans to understand, that I got to get a glass of water, is that you can be wrong sometimes. And when you're wrong, admit it. Okay? When I say watch what you say, if you are always saying something, really thinking about what you're saying before you actually say it, it can make you look bad. Really bad. Have you ever gone to a, let's say a party and you're playing a game? Maybe you're playing charades, right? And you know that when the other person's up and they're drawing, you need to keep your mouth shut and not say anything. Because if you say something, oh, a bird? No, be quiet. Is it a bird? Yeah, thank you, Team B, for helping. And so it's about timing. And it's about who you talk to and when you talk. So in a game, you don't want to say something when it's not your turn. Just like in poker, I don't play poker, but you don't want to reveal your hand. And so that's a perfect example of watching what you say. There could be another example where, let's say, you know that this thing is really, let's say you know that it's really, well, we're live in a studio here and we do get calls, so I apologize that happens. But again, I have to let you know that we are live when we do this, so I do apologize for that. But I don't take calls on the air unless obviously they're from you guys. Now, when we think about how we're going to do something, or the fact that we want to say the right things, generally we will. It's that when there's a situation and there's a pressure of that situation because you have to do it or it's under time, then you're not thinking about what you should be saying and not saying. Okay? Now, this might seem a little crazy. Let's say that you had to memorize lines for a play, just a few lines, and you didn't practice them very much. Now you get on stage, and suddenly your words are getting all, let's say, warped and twisted because you really didn't have the confidence level to actually do what you think. And so when I say watch what you say, you need to make sure that you're prepared to do what you need to before you open your mouth. This is very prevalent when it comes to sales. We're going to talk about sales another night, but very prevalent in sales, very prevalent in customer service. And we'll talk about some examples of this because I feel they're cardinal rules that get us into trouble as executives, as sales representatives, as client service representatives, as account executives. We're trying to do the right thing. But because of pressure, because of time, somebody just slips and says the wrong thing. Now, is that a lie? No, it's not a lie, but it's not a truth. It's really not the truth either. And this is happening because your brain does not have a chance to process what you're actually thinking about. So how do you make sure these moments don't happen? Well, one thing you have to do is you have to prepare, right? You're not just going to go up and start talking about a product or service and you have no clue about it, right? The other thing you're also going to do is make sure that not only do you have an understanding of what you're talking about, but that you have a logical sequence. So that's not like, well, I'm going to talk about this feature, that feature. Like, what's your sequence? How are you going to attract, your client? Or what we like to say in the buyer's journey is, how are you going to make, how's the awareness stage going to start? That starts without you, right? They know they have a problem before they came to you. Then we have the consideration stage. That's where they know they have a problem. They're looking for solutions. And the decision phase is when a solution is chosen by the client, either by them or can be by you giving them insights. But the most important thing is to make sure they know that they made the choice, even if you gave them great inspiration to what to pick. If you say, well, you got to take this, you give them inspiration and ideas, and that's going to make the difference. And so I know that people can be a little bit challenged. And so why this happens is because when somebody does something and a certain situation arises, people don't know what to do. So they panic. I'll give you a perfect example. Not the greatest example, but I'll give you an example. So maybe you've had buddies that have been in college before, and unfortunately, they might have drank a little bit too much. I was always the DD, the designated driver, which is good. And, when they did this, for whatever reason, you just are like, you're staying designated driver, you're staying sober. But when they did this, you know what would happen? I'll give you this perfect example. There was a surprise for somebody coming up. All right. It was actually a surprise party. And one of the guys at the fraternity actually was so drunk that he started opening his mouth about the surprise party. Now, luckily, we got the other person out of the room before they even heard something. They knew something was up, but they didn't know what it was. And we had to just tell him, like, shut up. It's like, stop talking about that. And so it's like people get so disconnected to what they should be saying and what they shouldn't be saying. That's another good reason not to drink. So when you lose control of your mental faculties, which can happen by having too much alcohol, you become an impediment to the road, you become a danger to other people, and you even can become really a harm to yourself because you don't get enough sleep. But you even do something as innocent as, letting out a surprise, or maybe there was a secret told to you about a certain place that somebody went and no one was supposed to know about that. Suddenly, oh, yeah, we did that many years ago and you went to that place. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. You told me you went up there. In fact, it was another. And so now everybody else is like, what happened there? So you kind of betrayed that person. Now, was it intentional? It wasn't intentional. However, watch what you say is something you need to know. It's not just part of business. It's part of personal life. It's part of your well-being as a character. And if you can realize that there is a time in your mind when you need to just be quiet, and there's a time when you need to share, but there's also a time that when you want to run your mouth to say, look, this is what I think, but you haven't thought about it. Like, you ever had somebody and you're like, oh, that was a lousy cake, or that was a terrible drink. And you said it, but what you didn't realize is that the person that made it just came in the room. So you shouldn't say it anyway, but the person just walked in the room. You're like, oh, yeah, it was a lousy drink. Would you ever tell Mike that? No, I wouldn't tell him. He worked too hard on it. Oh, Mike, yeah. So, well, sorry. And so that gets us in a lot of hot water. Watch what you say. If you watch what you say, you'll actually be amazed at how more cognizant, how more professional, and how much more in flow you will be in your business and in your life, because you're actually starting to understand that things have a flow. And if we think of our mind for a second, our mind lets thoughts in, it lets thoughts out. But it is our job to make sure that we let the right thoughts out, right? So if we're talking to somebody and we say something, but maybe we say something too soon, like if somebody's in a relationship and we tell the person that we really love them, but maybe that came out too soon. Like that wasn't supposed to come out just yet. It was only the second date. Maybe we're supposed to wait a little bit. So I think sometimes we have to have a limiter on what we allow to come out. And so that's another reason I say watch what you say, because if you don't, it might get you into situations that you're not ready for yet, or maybe potentially break somebody's heart or break your heart because there wasn't enough discovery done. You think that's the right thing. You've only been on 2 dates, and now you say you love the person, and they're like, oh, I don't feel that way. And now you're hurt. But if you would have waited and saw how they reacted, you could have came back and said, well, yeah, well, that was good. We'll just see if we hang out next time. So there's a difference. I think when you can respect that difference, that's when you as a person start to embrace what I like to call the watch what you say mentality. And we still have a few more days to talk about it. But watching what you say can prevent you from getting into so much trouble. And it can actually save you a lot of frustration, aggravation, and having to do things again because you said something wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It gives me great privilege, pride, and an honor to be with you again this evening. I hope you'll choose to like, support, love my channel. Then go below, comment. What are you saying right now? Are you watching what you're saying? Has your mouth ever said something before you had a chance to really be like, whoops, that just went past my lips and I can't take it back? Has it ever happened to you? Share it if you'd like to. And then please share, tag your friends, colleagues, and associates. Share it out with everyone you know on social media. And then be sure, yes, to, after you've tagged them and you shared it all out, go to my YouTube channel, John Space E Space MORLEY Space Serial Entrepreneur, and look for the key phrase, help keep our content free. And then make the choice, ladies and gentlemen, to buy my team and I a cup of coffee. We're so grateful for those pennies and dollars. We'll invest into new hardware, new technology, new equipment, new software, and even new facilities to give you the most jaw-dropping, motivational, inspirational content available on this planet and in this galaxy. So make that choice. help us with those cups of coffee. So we'll give you some even greater content, keep it coming to you, motivating you to have a better life, making you have a better version of yourself, and helping other people become better versions of themselves as well. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where our time goes, but I do want to let you know that we have some great guests coming up for you in a few months. We're going to start bringing guests on the IFYL show, Inspirations for Your Life. So I'm really psyched about that. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. And that will be episode 4. Have yourself a great night. And until then, watch what you say. Take care, everyone.